Alrighty. So this is my fourth podcast of 2020. So I'm going to count them off in case you love this one. You can go back to YouTube and you can say like, oh my God, that Monique Marvez, she has churned out 4 genius podcasts. So this one's called Timing is Everything. And the first 3 are Hindsight is So 2020, I Love It When a Plan Comes Together, and Crossing the Rubicon. And I am thrilled, proud, and delighted by all 3 of them because rather than try to pump out something every single week, I've really waited until I have the appropriate content. You know, timing is everything. That's the whole reason I'm calling this that. So it's almost been like quarterly, but not quite. Alrighty. So here we go. Timing is everything. And today is my birthday. It's the anniversary of my 38th birthday. I haven't gotten any older than 38. I just have anniversaries of my 38th birthday. And this is a big one, big anniversary. So here we are in Los Angeles, and we had an earthquake. It sounds weird to even say that out loud. We had an earthquake. I believe it was Sunday night. It was either Friday or Sunday. I know it wasn't Saturday because I had a live stream, and it was not shaking after that. So for the sake of this discussion, I'm going to say Sunday, and I'll tell you why. I'm not even looking it up on my phone. You guys can see when I'm looking at things. I'm going to tell you why. Because I was up late watching Mad Men with a friend of mine and social distancing. I have a long couch and a chair. And we were watching Mad Men to discuss the brilliance of Mad Men. Now, let me back time. I'm one of those people, birthdays are a big deal to me because a trip around the sun, 365 days. In fact, it does not take 365 days. You know, the universe, God, whatever word you want to use is so specific. It actually takes, to spin around the sun, for the earth to turn is 24 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.1 seconds. So we really don't have 365 days a year. It's really like 364 and a quarter, you know? So here we are. We go around. We have a birthday. We're on the right side of the dirt. I don't understand people that freak out over their birthdays or don't like their birthday or like, oh, I'm a year older. Oh, woe is me. Look at this face. This is the face of unutterable, meaning I can't even completely articulate how joyful I am. And that's because life is cumulative, which is one of my old podcasts before we started filming them because let's face it, audio without visual now is like, you might as well have a pager. It's a different world. And I get it. And I'm keeping up with it. And that in itself is exciting. I'm not slowing down. I'm not cool. My nieces tell me all the time, you're the coolest aunt. And I know they mean it because if I wasn't, they would let me know. So first of all, let me talk about the earthquake specifically. Because going back a few days, birthdays are a big deal to me. Birthdays, I schedule a facial, like a deep clean facial. Now, for those of you who think that a facial is just like they put a bunch of masks and rub you and all of that, if you go to like a serious facialist, they get on in there. They clean your pores. They do what they call extractions, which is basically they've been trained to professionally squeeze your face. And usually I go to the Korean scrub and I get scrubbed within an inch of my life by women who do not speak English and scrub you with salt as if you owe them money and have told them, I'm not paying. And they scrub you. But I realized that because of COVID, I had to adapt. So I had to do pieces parts. I scheduled a dental cleaning and they told me that they couldn't polish my teeth because of all of the spray, that they would clean them and send me home with the polish. I got a facial because my facialist built a she shed behind her house. So I was in her backyard in my underpants getting a facial. And I did acupuncture, which I actually could do. I did acupuncture yesterday.
What? That's mental.
See how it really looks.
For the first time in my life, at 57 and 364 days, not quite exactly, I already told you that, I had needles put in all over me, like forehead, ears, legs. Actually, the one that kind of didn't hurt, but I felt pressure, was in my lower left leg to treat tinnitus in my right ear. So there you have it. I'm saying these things because I want you to think about in your own life how you view where you are, your you are here spot. You know, I'm on the cross section of here and here. And I've talked about this before, but I really want to, because of COVID, because of the world we live in, because of how fast, because so much of it is virtual, so much of it is social media, I very much want you to think about how you feel about where you are right now. I'm on the corner of, COVID and homeschool. Like it's an intersection. I'm on 4th and Elm. And I started this whole thing of the You Are Here spot with my girlfriend Deborah many years ago because my car broke down when I was a road comic in 1996 on the 10 outside of Demings, New Mexico. Google it. I couldn't say that at the time. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do? And my big old fat Sprint phone kind of worked. I had no money. I called my girlfriend Deborah, who's in New York, who was always is, not what, is. And she said, I'll send you a tow truck. Where are you? And I said, Debs, it's not like you in the middle of New York that can say, I'm on the corner of Lex and Fit, No, I'm on the 10 in the middle of the desert, like where they film Roadrunner. Like I'm on the corner of, trucker rape and starvation. like I'm at the intersection of certain death and buzzards, But somehow it worked out that a wonderful man stopped and helped me. And I had frozen lug nuts and he had to like jump up and down on the crowbar. Like, I always jokingly say God looks after fools and drunks and I don't drink. But it made me look in a very visceral way of where my life was. I was on the corner of this and this. Here I was, a grown woman, nearly 38, with as I've said for a million years, bad credit, bald tires, and a dream. So right now, the You Are Here spot is that it's my birthday, and a lot of things that I wanted to have happen are happening. And they're happening in spite of me and not because of me. And now, when I actually shifted and made it because of me, because of COVID, everything's changed. I already had an earthquake start inside of me. I had a tectonic shift. I was already like shaking stuff up and having the sediment of what I jokingly call dredging the lake, the lake of my soul for dead bodies. I have been working on this since COVID because what else would a writer, performer do but take this pause for the cause to figure stuff out or to do things I've never done? And in this time, what's really come out of it, and I've talked about this on my 330s. I do a 330 live every day on Facebook. I've talked about these on my 330, and I've talked about, I've covered a lot of ground. So on this podcast, I'm going to give you the highlights. I went from being a hostile witness to social media in a murder trial of what I thought was civility and sort of the rules of engagement of the species, to deciding that there are new rules and that it's okay to have new rules. And not only was I going to embrace that there were new rules of engagement, I was going to embrace that I was allowed to have new rules of engagement. If all bets are off, somebody was yelling at me about, calling, and thank goodness I'm able to call several institutions and negotiate, payments being added to the end of a term or whatever's going on that COVID has allowed. I've embraced it to the fullest. And a friend of mine was like, aren't you worried that you're going to have bad credit? I'm like, I got news for you. This is bigger than the meltdown of '08. Everybody's going to have bad credit, and cash is king. So I'm going to sit on my cash. I'm not going to just dole it out apologetically and willy-nilly like I always have. New rule of engagement. I'm going to do what rich people do. Rich people aren't all apologetic and willy-nilly. Heck no. They go underground in little hidey holes of, I'm going to wait till all of this settles and then I'm going to come out and buy up the world on sale. How do I know this? Because I've taken the time during COVID to read the fine print on a whole lot of stuff, including articles that are coming out. And, you know, when they send you like, there are new rules to how to handle your 401k because of COVID. Like the old me would have never taken the time. All that stuff made the top of my head soggy. I wouldn't read it. I would be like, oh, and I would call somebody and ask them like, what does this mean? Ugh. Well, guess what? Not only have I embraced being a good steward, I've embraced finding stuff out. Being ignorant, even in the most superficial way, about how it works with your credit cards, with your money, with your 401k, with, you know, penalties. It wasn't serving me. And my excuse was, I'm busy. I'm packing. I'm getting on a cruise. I'm getting off a cruise. I'm catching a flight. I'm da 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 da. Guess what? No excuse. But to my credit, and hopefully to yours, I decided to make use of this time. And if the world is changing, great. Let me jump right in that chaos. Everybody, you know, I think it's Nietzsche's quote that a star is born out of chaos. Let me jump right in this maelstrom and see how I can turn it to my advantage. And I did in many, many ways. But it wasn't about money. When you're in alignment, and you've heard me say this too, when you're in alignment, when you're an unkinked wire, the currency flows. And once currency energy is flowing, the money flows behind the currency. It's inevitable. And I believed it intellectually. I've now come to see it in real time. So the rules of engagement were already changing because I thought, well, if this has changed with my relationship with my own money and credit card companies and my car payment, let me see what else. Because then you have what I call deposits in the favor bank. You know, as I see favor, as I see good things happening, I'm like, how do I build on this? How do I create interest? How do I have a savings account in the bank of goodwill? Well, I've said it before on, you know, many other platforms in many other ways. But the podcast is to drill it all down for you, to give you the headlines. I changed on a systemic bone marrow because it's in your bones. When you're born, there's a way that your family behaves. And you get a lot of your behavior from your family, whether you want to admit it or not. There's a line in my one-woman show where I say, the first and only gang I ever joined was my family. And I've actually coined the phrase, like back in the day we had Brangelina, I call them the famga, which equals the fam gang, which is kind of funny. It's your family, but it's a gang. I think one of the reasons I'm drawn to shows like Mad Men and Sopranos for sure is because they show the inner workings of a loving, cohesive, highly dysfunctional family. And there's a familiarity, there's that word, pun intended, to seeing people that on some level do love each other, but on other levels are not helping each other out. There's a lot of sort of hook in the foot and tripping, you know, if it's just verbal or emotional or intentional. I want you to think about your relationship to your family, because we're all kind of isolated right now with good excuse. There's a very small percentage of the country is getting on planes and flying to spend. I had a friend who Zoomed the Jewish holidays on Saturday night. She Zoomed with her parents. She showed them, this is my homemade challah. This is my Hamantash. But she had to do it by Zoom. There was no getting to her family. It just wasn't a great idea. So again, embracing the times we're in, timing is everything, and observing and saying, if this has changed, and I'm not a compartmentalized person, if this is changing for the good, let me see what else I can change for the good. And my relationship with my famga has changed dramatically. And more importantly, with my friends. Because in a lot of ways, I realized that, and I'm going to go more in depth about this, but I wrote a whole chart like a bullseye. And I'm not going to bore you, but that's how information comes to me. It was basically like a dartboard. And I'm in the middle. And then I saw, almost like a solar system, how much of my time and energy and effort and money I have spent keeping people exactly in the rings where I want them. What I call my defense spending. Like there's some people that I didn't want to get any closer. So I felt obligated to do certain things to keep them right where they were. Like when they were in town, I would go to lunch with them, even though I really kind of didn't want to. It would be like, well, but you don't want them to be any closer, and they want to be closer, so you're going to acquiesce and do this lunch. That's your defense spending of time, money, and energy to keep them right where you want them. And there were some people that I was very close with and wanted to keep close that I was also misspending my resources. You see where I'm going with that? My defense spending, how I've tried very hard to keep people at the expense of myself because it was more an appeasement. It was more a people pleasing. It was more well, I'll do this to make that happen. My defense spending. It's not just about cash. It's about my time, my energy, my resources. Well, I'm going to tell you, boys and girls, as you get closer to the finish line than the starting gun, I used COVID under the cover of COVID. I stopped my defense spending completely. And I Marie Kondo'd my friends. I took every single relationship and I held it up to the light mentally and said, what interaction occurs between us that is authentically good? It's not that you have to bring something to the table, that it's some sort of quid pro quo, but energetically, what are our new rules of engagement? How do I want to interact with you? What's the best way? And some people were downgraded from this to this. You know what? I don't need to talk to you because I have a hard time getting you to stop talking about things that don't matter to me. And I don't want to hurt your feelings. Not about people pleasing, just about rules of engagement. Texting is a much better platform for us. So I use this 21-day writing intensive to have sort of a baseline of, hey, I'm doing a deep dive. I'm finishing my manuscript. I'm taking this time. And then there's other people that were sort of not able to get closer to me because the field was crowded, that I said, you know what? You make me feel good. Whenever I'm around you, we brainstorm. Both of us walk away going, that was a great idea, or thank you so much for that, or I appreciate the clarity on that relationship. This conversation really helped me. And that person got like, hey, you've been back here. I'm going to spend a little more on you and move you closer in an authentic, honest way. See, I had already started changing the rules of engagement before the earthquake shook me up. I was already starting a very deep rumbling, a tectonic shift, if you will, of how I'm going to proceed and interact with every human being, even as my fan base grows and there's thousands of people on social media, millions, I hope. Energetically, I still get to decide how much energy. And they're going to get a lot because I'm saving so much over here. So, rules of engagement. Think about it. It's the end of section 1, chapter 1, first 20 minutes, whatever you want to call it, of the hour-long called Timing is Everything. This is the Monique Marvez Show.